Welcome. How is everybody doing? Welcome to the first SaaStock Sessions. I am your host, Alex Theuma, CEO and founder of SaaStock. Let's see who we've got who's joined us so far. If you want to maybe say hi in the chat section. If you're here, and maybe announce yourself, who you are, what your company is, if you're happy to, maybe even if you're happy to share, like what sort of revenue you're doing or why you're here. Let's see some of that in the chat. So whilst you guys announce yourselves and your company and your objectives for this session, just to kind of talk a little bit about why we are doing it. We have a conference coming up in June called SaaStock Remote. This is our first online conference where we are looking to help the SaaS founders, the SaaS companies that are a part of our community, really kind of help them adapt, survive, and thrive through these challenging times. We're all going through this together, all experiencing the same and similar challenges. That's for sure. That's one thing that we all have in common. In the run-up to SaaStock Remote, which is taking place on June the 10th and 11th, we wanted to have these SaaStock sessions and really kind of help the community, for free, talking about specific topics that we believe will be of value, bringing in some really fantastic speakers to give you short, sharp tips and stories to really kind of help you get through this. So obviously today's session is focused on leadership, and we've got four amazing leaders in the SaaS space to kind of share their stories. So each will have 10 minutes or less. They will answer some questions, if time's permitting. So feel free to answer questions. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun. We're trying to make it not another webinar. We're trying to connect people. So not only help through learning, but also connect people as well, because in a time where we can't meet in person, connectivity is still super important. And it's very difficult, it's challenging, and certainly, some virtual events that we've been participating in, it's very kind of one-directional and very content-focused. But here we're looking at the equal importance and value of content, but also this connectivity. So we've got 150 people registered for this event. Given that it's a free event, we expect a little bit of drop-off, but good quality people in attendance. Speaking of which, let's have a look, who we've got. Here we go, Michael Litt. Afternoon, Michael. Welcome. Fraser, hey Fraser, how's it going? Good to see you. Nick Dunce, RCC leader for SaaStock Local in the UK. Jerry Hort, nice to see some familiar faces here. Sandy, Johan, good crowd already. Let people know if you want, within the chat, a little bit more about your businesses, but you can also do that in the networking part a little bit later on. Just sort of looking at the time and what I've got to cover before we bring in our first speaker. Just wanted to say, obviously, around the networking side of things, so we'll do the content. It'll be, let's say, 10 minutes per person. So we do the math, that's 40 minutes. At the end, we have networking. You'll probably see on the left-hand side, there is two hands shaking, which is probably not a good idea right now. But it symbolizes sort of networking and connectivity. What we're going to do, it's a bit of a like a chat roulette style networking, where after the content ends, you'll go here, you'll click network or connect or whatever the button says, and then you'll be paired randomly with somebody in attendance. So that'll be quite fun. And at the end of it, we expect that you'll maybe meet four new SaaS BFFs, if you can, in an 8-minute period. but you can talk about, what you're going through from a leadership side, what you're seeing, what works, what doesn't work. You can also share your virtual business cards, and hopefully the persons that you met with are of value to you. I expect everybody will be. A little treat, perhaps, if you think it is. I will also be participating in the networking, and obviously the 4 people that get paired with me individually, I will give a free ticket to SaaStock Remote for those 4 people. So if you're interested in that, do let us, do participate in that, and you may randomly be paired with me. Running order for today. So we've got the CEO of Typeform coming up next. That's Joaquim Lecha. He'll be talking about preparing ourselves for a new world. Following that, Litt, the CEO of Vidyard. Then we have Jaleh Rezaei, co-founder and CEO of Mutiny. And then Dan Martell coming fourth and final. Dan is the only one who's not going to be live. We have a pre-recorded tip from Dan, but it's worth sticking around for. He always gives great content. This is the first time we're doing this, so bear with us. I'm hoping it runs seamlessly. I'm sure it will, but if not, please be forgiving. So let's get on with the show and welcome our first guest, Joaquim Lecha, the CEO of Typeform, and welcome, Kim.
Hello.
Hey, how is it going?
Hey, Alex. Hello. Everything's good, thank you.
Good. And are you dialing in from Barcelona?
Yes, I'm in my hometown. It's a bit south of Barcelona, but yeah, basically working from home.
Yeah. We're all working from home, and as we said, maybe this is going to be the new norm of sorts. Well, Kim, look, this is your time. Really appreciate you taking the time to kind of share with our community. I will leave you to it, and as I say, within the 10 minutes, if we have any time, sort of at the end, we'll come back and answer some questions. So if you do have any questions for Kim, type them in the chat, and we'll pull out 1 or 2 and try to kind of answer those at the end. So we'll leave that with you, and I'll come back in 10 minutes time.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, SaaStock, also for inviting me, and thanks everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and share some of my thoughts. When thinking about leadership in times of crisis, I can think of so many topics. I will focus on maybe the later stage, which is preparing ourselves for the after crisis, right? And this is the reason for this is this because I actually firmly believe that the world post-COVID-19 will be a different world to the one that we had before. We all have had to change and adapt ourselves to the situation, working from home, for instance. And some of these changes and adaptations, in my opinion, will become permanent. I think, and this is kind of my first message, I really believe it is important to be conscious and really understand that we are going to live after COVID in a new world, in a world that will be different to the one that we left behind prior to the crisis. When a few weeks ago, when thinking about it and also starting to read a lot of material from different people, different companies, institutions, and so on, a lot of the focus was on the shape of the recovery. So is it going to be a U? Is it going to be a V, an L? The length of time, is it going to be 6 months, 9 months, 3 months? And also, let's say all of this in regards to the geometry of the impact. This macro approach was super helpful in terms of understanding and having frameworks, but to be honest, it was difficult to bring this down to our particular situation. And the most important job, or one of the 2 most important jobs for any leader, surely for the CEO of a company, is to manage crisis and to always develop and clearly communicate the organization's vision, mission, and strategy. And this is maybe my second message today. As leaders in our organizations, going into a new world, we have to understand this new world. We have to think about it and consider how this new world is going to impact our vision, our mission, and our strategy. It is difficult. Some of the most important skills of a CEO, let's say clarity, decisiveness, courage, are put to maximum test, and we can think, how will this new world affect my company? How should I shift my strategy, my mission, or my vision? There will be companies that will be severely hit, and we are already seeing this, and maybe in their new world, the comeback is not easy, and they will have to change a lot, even starting from their vision. Think of companies in traveling, in hospitality, in tourism, or field sales software, for instance. No? Other companies might have maybe temporary impacts or maybe even positive impacts. And in any case, they will have to shift and change some things, maybe less deeper changes, but nevertheless, still they will need to do some changes. Not knowing how the new world will exactly be, being this an uncertain new world that we are going to, it is so difficult to plan and make long-term decisions, right? So what do we do? I believe that we startups are well equipped to deal with uncertainty. Remember when you were founding the company some time ago or joining at an earlier stage, startups are born to disrupt, are born to follow a path of continuous discovery, of not certainty, but uncertainty. And I think one of the things that we could do is use probabilities. Some of the changes of the future are more probable. We can assign to these changes a higher probability than to other changes. And thinking in probabilities, I find it is useful because it's so much easier to decide if something will change with a higher probability than to be certain about it, than to decide whether this will surely happen or will definitely not happen. In my professional life, I've been in other crises. I'm 46 years old, and although this is unprecedented, and definitely, I've been in other crises, sometimes affecting the company I was working on, not the whole world, but my world. And it was very useful to think in these terms. And when something is, let's say, 75, 85, 90% probable, then we have to act. We have to be decisive. We have to be courageous, and we have to do the changes. When this is not as certain, let's say that we believe that something is maybe 55%, 60 or 70% probable, we can still do things. We can still bet. We can take a bet with a proper degree of caution. We startups also use design thinking techniques. We use lean methodologies. And so we can, let's say, shift our strategies the necessary amount so that we can validate and gain, let's say, knowledge and reposition our company in case that less certain but still probable change materializes finally. Another thing I would suggest is be very, very close to your customers. Back to those research and reports about the shape of or the geometry of the impact. All these things are super useful, as I said, but actually complementing these perspectives with your own much deeper understanding of your customers, their specific situations, thinking about it and contrasting if you have, let's say, customers in different geographies, in different industries, in different segments or other. Talking to them, understanding how they see their world, how they predict their world will change, all of these things, reading customer support tickets, or if you have a lot of them, maybe survey your customers. No? So I would say use Typeforms. Maybe this is the right time maybe you have already been close to your customer always, and you are a really customer-centric company, or maybe not so much yet. But this is a great opportunity to build this trust. People are open to talk about share perspectives, and therefore it's a good time to build these more personal business relationships and having this a bit more recurring, let's say, meaningful conversations. This is the knowledge that I believe is the most relevant, because whatever happens to your customers is going to happen to you. So understanding how they see the world, how they face the world, is what will anticipate your changes and your needs to adapt. So as a summary for this, final message then is use probabilities, be decisive, be courageous, bet with caution, and be very close to your customers, as close as possible, to adapt your strategy, mission, and vision if necessary, for the new world. This is it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I'm glad you did the summary at the end, because I was taking notes and I was going to do the takeaways. But I think, with everything, wholeheartedly agree from my side. I don't see any questions yet at the moment, but I guess if anybody's got them, type them now or forever hold your peace. But really appreciate you sharing that with us and the community. I guess if people don't have questions because maybe they're a bit shy and they don't want to put them in chat, how can people sort of reach you if you want to be contacted?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two ways. The best way, maybe the easiest one, is through LinkedIn. The second way is through my email. My email is my name, joaquim.lecha. I can share it in the chat if it's easier, at typeform.com. So joaquim.lecha@typeform.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, Kim. That was awesome. We will see you again, obviously, at future SaaStock events, both online and in person. But thanks very much for your time.
No, not at all. Thank you. You're doing a great job in keeping us connected. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you. Okay. So as we move on, straight into the next talk, I just want to mention that if you see the poll section, which is in the middle, next to that and in between people, we have a question here, which is posted by Joe Byrne. But actually posted by our third speaker, Jaleh Rezaei from Mutiny, who would like to know before her talk, how many of you agree with this statement? As a leader during turbulent times, I let people know how I really feel, they will panic. So do you disagree or do you agree? So if you can have a look at that poll and disagree or disagree before talk, that will be awesome. And so moving on to our next speaker, somebody that has spoken at a couple of SaaStock events in the past. It is the first online session. Sorry, my mood is saying my voice is not clear. Can you hear me now? Is it a little bit better? I think maybe because I moved away and also losing my voice. Hard to hear. An issue with the sound. Okay, what I might try with the next one is plugging in a mic. Let's try this. How are we doing? Any better? Yeah? Cool. Very good. Okay. Hopefully you heard some of that, but effectively, I was just saying our next guest has spoken at a couple of SaaStock events before. It's always a pleasure, for me to kind of speak to this person and learn from them, and therefore I'll hand over to Michael Litt, who is the co-founder and CEO of Vidyard. So let's welcome Michael to the stage. Okay, hopefully he should be joining any second. In the meantime, let's see if how we're getting on with the poll. Anybody voted yet? have a go if you can and answer the question of how many of you agree with the statement. As the leader during turbulent times, if I let people know how I really feel, will they panic? And do you agree or disagree? Maybe people can say in the chat whether they agree or disagree within that, as we wait for Michael to join the stage. See who else we've got here. Andre from Hotel Champ, good to see you. We spoke at the SaaStock local in Amsterdam. It's a good session. Hi, Belinda. Seems are we having our first technical issue to get Michael through, but hopefully he should be joining shortly. And so, given that this is our first time that we're doing this, expected 1 or 2 hiccups potentially. Here we go.
Hey, got it.
You got it.
Right on. Good. How are you, man?
Yeah, good. I see you're on brand, which I like. I'm dressed in black. How's things?
Things are well. It was actually a funny story. My wife and I are living at the cottage right now, and we came up here as soon as we started working from home, and I literally just grabbed 5 Vidyard t-shirts, and that is it. And so I have one for every day of the week, and this has been my uniform for the past 7-8 weeks now.
Very good. I won't ask what you wear on Saturday and Sunday then, Michael. All right, good stuff. Well, look, I'll leave you to it. I know that you're going to talk about how to unite a remote team, and the floor is yours. And I'll come back in about 9 to 10 minutes time.
Sounds good. All right, everybody, great to be here. I'm a huge fan of the SaaStock audience and very excited for the opportunity that these virtual events hold. So thanks to the SaaStock crew. Thanks to you all for joining today. I want to talk about uniting a remote team. Vidyard is not traditionally been a remote team. We have one big office in Kitchener-Waterloo that has about 200 people. We have a location in Vancouver that has about 20. And then we've got a smattering of people all over the world, in Dublin, in Boston, and some in Asia as well. So remote work wasn't really core to our DNA when this all started. When this started, I actually was in Belize with my wife, Donna, who's also an entrepreneur. She's one of the founders of a business called Kite and Uvaro. And we were doing a workcation in Belize. And we were kind of watching the COVID pandemic come obviously east to west. And it was very clear to us that we were going to be having a very interesting arrival at home, which was the second week of March. March 16th is actually when it happened. And so when we got back to work on Monday, things started happening really fast and mindsets started changing really fast. And one of the biggest things I noticed was that there was a ton of uncertainty amongst the team, because this was a scary thing, right? We were starting to see what the virus was doing elsewhere in the world. People were wondering how Vidyard was going to respond. And I felt a level of responsibility that, frankly, I haven't necessarily felt before, to make a decision around a set of parameters that were so uncertain. 3 days after we got back from our holiday, we were considering testing a mandated work from home program. 1 day later, we did that test, and we literally haven't come back to the office. And so we moved really quickly. Now, we're very fortunate as a business because we do have offices in other locations around the world. We were set up for Zoom from day one. So every meeting room was a Zoom room. We use Slack really effectively. Obviously, Vidyard is a video communication technology that's part of our culture and the way we do things. And so I think we were very fortunate compared to a lot of other non-tech enabled businesses. And by the way, I think this is what creates an opportunity for a lot of SaaS businesses right now. Traditional and laggard industries, such as construction or businesses that require in-person interaction or didn't necessarily get up to speed with digital technologies are now forced to do so because they have no other choice to be productive. And in that world and in that realm, there's a ton of opportunity emerging that you and your founders and your business need to start looking around to see where those opportunities exist to go out and execute. So the biggest concern about going to full remote is that we are very, very culturally oriented. And if you Google pictures of our office, you'll see it's a space that is designed for collaboration amongst people and really tight collaboration, water cooler chats and those types of things. And so the immediate concerns I had with going into this cultural shift were, what is the at-home productivity going to be like for the team? What are the technology setups people have? What is the emotional mindset? How do extroverts survive in an introverted world? What happens with kids being at home at school? We have a relatively young team that has a lot of young children. So now all of a sudden there's this added component of daily childcare, which is especially impactful for families where both parents are working. I already mentioned this, but I was worried about losing out on the water cooler chats. How do we enable the micro innovations that happen every single day remotely? And then how do I address the team at scale and start to ease the uncertainty that people feel when I don't necessarily have a crystal ball that indicates when all this is going away? So there's some immediate solutions that we took in place I want to talk about now. So the first one is, you got to take a step back and really consider the reality and consider the concern and the uncertainty that exists and put yourself in people's shoes. So obviously Slack is a fantastic communication medium and technology. We use it to keep everybody up to date on a daily basis. We have lots of conversations. The way we use Slack hasn't changed. I already mentioned this, but every meeting was already a Zoom meeting. So we have global offices. Every meeting had a Zoom link appended to it. So we were lucky in that was already done. But now here's some of the other things that we normally did. We do a weekly town hall where the company gets together in one big room. It's a space in the office called town hall. We bring in lunch, we all sit together, and we address the team on what we're working on a weekly basis. How do we take that and make that digital and make it as engaging as it once was? We have a live streaming product. And so what we actually do is we live stream a Zoom session and set up a live chat in Slack. And so that people can communicate and interact while the presenters are communicating their weekly updates on an agile basis. That works really, really, really well. And it's actually more engaging than I think the in-person sessions, because people are able to interact while the speaker's talking, which can't happen in in-person sessions. Very much like this here with the open Q&A and the open chat. The next thing we did, and I highly encourage everybody to do this, is do an Ask Me Anything session with your entire leadership team. At Vidyard, we have our C-suite, which was myself, my CFO, and our CTO. We also have the ELT, which is our SVP of customer experience, our head of sales, our head of marketing, head of finance, myself, and Devin, our CTO. We have our SLT, which is our strategic leadership team, which basically include all VPs and above. There's 12 people in that group. What we did was we used Slido, which is sli.do, to ask the team questions 3 days in advance. We assigned those questions to leaders, and we sat down and had a Zoom meeting with the whole company and went through these questions and addressed their concerns and got out in front of some of the things that are concerning people and holding them back. We also implemented a really interesting tool called Donut Be Shy. That is donut as in the thing you eat, D-O-N-U-T, which basically looks at the social graph that exists inside of Slack and makes random pairings between people. So if I am not in certain channels and other people are, it'll connect those two graphs and randomly connect me with someone on a weekly basis for a 30-minute coffee, beer, cocktail, whatever it is, which is a really great way of having those random collisions that we miss from inside the office. We also enabled creativity and flexibility. We told the team to do anything you want to engage each other. So we have all sorts of random hangouts that are happening. We have a daily newscast by somebody on our team, which is really funny. We have daily videos about life in quarantine, regular happy hours, group at-home yoga sessions, Zoom calls just to vent frustrations. And all we did was tell the team that they could do this, and they went off and created it on their own. And I'm so proud that that happened inside the company. But I think in today's world and in this world of remote work, you have to enable your team to think creatively. And then I had to think about how I communicate to the team differently. I send a weekly session or a monthly video using our product to the team to review the performance of the company. Monthly obviously wasn't on a fast enough cadence. And so we shifted that to a daily kind of quick thoughts update and a weekly summary of all things happening in our customer base with respect to top of funnel activations with our product, new product launches, how we're thinking about the opportunity for Vidyard, and how we're thinking about the video, or sorry, the opportunity that exists for video. And because we were doing that, because we were agile, and because we created all these other ecosystems, the team really stepped up because they understood the opportunity that exists. And they looked at our technology and started coming up with really interesting ideas to say, we can apply our technology to secure comms. We can apply our technology to the educational sector. And so we launched new solutions that are going to enable other companies to essentially communicate more effectively in this time using our own technology. And that's what I'm most proud of, because the very first couple weeks of this were completely arduous. I was spending 12 to 16 hours a day on Zoom calls. It was super physically and mentally draining. And so we had to come to some kind of consensus on how we optimize these remote calls. Body language is obviously very important, but not every meeting needs to be a 1-hour Zoom call. And so one thing I recommend everybody do is mandate that meetings can be no longer than 30 minutes, and that the agenda for the meeting, the expected outcome, everything needs to be communicated before the meeting starts and provided in a video or in a memo to give people a really good understanding of what's expected, what the conversation is going to be, and what the outcomes are. And that took half of the time I was spending on Zoom out of my daily calendar, which was phenomenal because it gave me time then to talk to customers and do all the other stuff that Joaquim was just talking about doing that's so important in this time. So hopefully that was helpful. I see I'm getting the big shepherd's hook from Alex here, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll be hanging out through this. Cheers. Hey, Alex, I can't hear you. Well, I'm going to keep talking then for a minute because I think we're running into some issues here. But I really want to talk about the Zoom thing because we called it getting zoomed out. It was a real challenge in our business that I'm sure everybody here is feeling. My day normally consisted of going from meeting to meeting and seeing people in the halls and being very physically active to basically sitting here on this ball for massive amounts of time. And so I cannot communicate enough how important it is in this remote world to be communicating the objectives and the information that's going to be discussed in a meeting ahead of time, and not ending that meeting on a flat note, and ensuring that everybody knows what's expected and what needs to be done. Because right now, ambiguous conversation just creates more uncertainty and doesn't help anybody accomplish the tasks and the goals that they have for themselves. Any questions? I'm looking through the motorbike. I'm glad somebody caught that. No other questions.
All right, let's see if can you hear me?
Oh,
can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you. We got you.
Yeah, internet gremlins, probably my kids on YouTube, I imagine, something like that. But no, thanks for sharing that, Michael. As I was saying, but everybody couldn't hear me, was certainly like much of that resonated. You know, at the beginning, you talk about that level of responsibility never, kind of like felt before. I think, everybody was kind of in that position of, what do we do and when do we send people home? Do we wait for the government mandated order, or do we, do it before? Questions around the productivity levels, but I think everybody had those, but I mean, certainly from our side, we perhaps seen even more increased productivity, at SaaStock, arguably, and certainly for me, without having that long commute, I'm getting more done. But I think you're right. I like the tips about the Zoom meetings not being more than 30 minutes, because we've been into I think we had a 2-hour Zoom meeting yesterday, and by the end it's tough, and
a nightmare.
At about sort of 8:30 p.m. I'm not able to watch that next episode of The Last Dance.
Oh, I think I lost you again. All right, I might just go ahead and answer some of these questions if you can still hear from me. Couple things that I will take back into the physical world once COVID is over. I miss high-fiving people. Oh, here we go. Alex is back.
All right. Michael, thanks for the talk. Where can people find you if they've got any questions that are not motorbike related or clothes related?
Yes, absolutely. Find me on LinkedIn. You can slide into my DMs. Same thing for Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Michael Litt. Or just send me an email at michael@vidyard.com. I'm happy to help. And I'd love to hear about how people are using video during this time, because obviously you can't really do your job anymore without video communication. And so I'm very excited to see how people use it. This is my world. This is what I love. And I'm encouraged by how creative businesses and individuals are being with video these days.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for being a guest, and we'll see you soon at SaaStock Remote.
Can't wait to be there. Cheers, man.
Thanks, man. Okay, and so just before we welcome our next speaker, I think we just need Michael to press leave.
Hey there, SaaS founders. Dan Martell here, serial entrepreneur, investor, and creator of SaaS Academy. And in today's session, I want to share a really powerful lesson learned that I learned through going through an incredibly chaotic time in my life. I really share a story of not only the key elements that I took away from that time, but also a different way to lead, a different way that transformed my leadership style from a transactional one to a transformational leadership point of view. 3 companies into my career, I was building a company called Flowtown in San Francisco. We were a venture-backed startup, and we're actually about 15,000 customers on pace to raise our Series A. And in the middle of that fundraising process, we actually found out that Facebook was making a change to their algorithm that would essentially make our product no longer work in the market. It was on the cover of the Wall Street Journal. It was, I believe, October 2010. There were some nefarious people doing stuff on the Facebook platform. And because of what they were doing, it caused Facebook to change some API access points that made our technology and our workflow really not usable. And there was really no easy way to kind of come back from that. And it was a pretty tough time. I know some of you founders out there are dealing with major pipeline loss or marketing funnels that are no longer producing, or even worse, serving industries that your customers are just not open for business. And it's been a really tough time, being isolated from your core team and also not having the market be available to us to actually sell into. And I can totally get, what you're going through, because here we were up to that point, 16 months into building this company on a rocket ship, to only find out that all the work that we had put into it was essentially going to go down to zero. So I had been through some really tough times in the past, and I went to my co-founder and said, meet me Saturday morning at the office while everybody was gone home, and we'll sit in front of the whiteboard and we'll try to figure out what we need to do to really turn things around. And, we did what best we could. There's 3 things that I've been teaching my coaching clients around, adjusting to the new norm. It's the 3 Ps. Number 1, pivot. Second is protect. And third is profit, which sounds crazy for a lot of entrepreneurs, but it's not once you understand the methodology. So that was essentially what Ethan, my co-founder, and I did that morning. We sat there at the whiteboard. We made a list of all the resources and assets that we had at a company, our customer database, our marketing list, our our blog at the time, our technology stack, our team, and we also asked ourselves, what problems are we passionate about solving? So I think that is the ultimate superpower of a founder, is their passion to solve the problem that they're in. So if you're gonna pivot, you got to be careful. This is the key thing. You got to be careful not to pivot into an area that you're no longer passionate about. There's always opportunity around there. Even now in the downturn, there are markets that are thriving: online gaming, entertainment, learning management systems, remote work from home type technologies, etc. There's a whole category of industries that are thriving, and pretty much we just kind of looked at the overlap between what we love to do, the resources that we have access to, our assets, and then figure out where the market was. And we came up with 3 different prototypes that we went to market with. One was a tweeting scheduling type tool, what would look a lot like Buffer today. Another one was a gift marketing platform, which was a way for small businesses to gift and reward their most loyal customers in a digital format, using social media as distribution. And then the third one was kind of like similar to the gift marketing, but more for enterprises, and it was called Ambassador. It was a way to empower your most powerful customers to spread the message. And we built those 3 prototypes, and we knew that we were going to have to pick the one to lean into, and we eventually picked the product. It was Ambassador. We rebranded Flowtown as a company, and really pivoted the whole market. I mean, we ended up going from an SMB product to a mid-market for agencies, and ended up rebuilding our revenue base and getting acquired 12 months later. Now, I share that because the big lesson I learned from a leadership point of view was how to go from a transactional leadership to a transformational. Because what happens in companies is when you have crisis, there's a habit, and it really stops companies from scaling past 12 employees to go into the tell somebody what to do, check that it got done, tell them what to do next. Okay, and some of you guys may be listening to this and thinking, but that's kind of how I lead today, and that's fine. But it's always going to stunt your growth, because if you're no longer there to tell them what to do, check that it got done, and tell them what to do next, then they're essentially going to be flying blind. The other challenge that it brings from a scaling point of view, and why it really had an impact on me at that point in my career, is that every new person that you add to the team adds cognitive overhead or communication overhead, or it's another to-do thing on your list to manage and process that day. And what I discovered through that process, because we had to downsize the team into essentially, a skeleton crew, about nine engineers and team administrative support, marketing, etc., sales, was a different approach. And I call this transformational leadership, because instead of using the transactional leadership approach, tell, check, next, it was more of outcome, measure, and coach. So the way that works is totally different, which is, now we knew clearly where we were going, and what I did to communicate that to the team, because all of a sudden me and my co-founder Ethan, we were heads down working on getting sales, working on the product design, etc., because we had a lot of work to kind of catch up to rebuild our revenue base and our pipeline, that we needed to be able to allow the team to make decisions in an autonomous fashion. So the way that works is totally different, which is outcome, getting real clear on what it looks like. I like to ask the question, what's the definition of done? If this thing is complete, and I'm coaching a person on my executive leadership team, or one of the portfolios, I actually have invested in 40 plus companies like Intercom and Udemy and Hootsuite, and talking to the founders about those challenges, because really it's all about leadership. At a certain scale, if you want to build the business, you got to build the people, and it's just a direct correlation. And understanding how to clearly define outcome goals and ask somebody, what is the definition of done? When this is done, what does it look like? Let's define it. Let's talk about the best results. What are the key results that if this thing was just smashed out of the park, what would that look like? And define that. And then, so that's on the outcome side. And then the second thing is to measure, right? Ask yourself, what is it that we're going to measure to know that we're on the right track, right? If you're doing an SEO project, for example, maybe it's organic search traffic, right? Or maybe it's certain keyword traffic that you're trying to rank for. You need to figure out what is the metric that we're going to measure, so that you can hold that person to that outcome and they get a feedback loop along the journey of implementing that project or deploying that solution so that they know they're on the right track. Okay. And then the third is coach to success. Coach them. As a leader and a founder, our job is not to tell people what to do, check that it got done, and tell them what to do next. That is not leadership. Leadership is 100%. Here's the scorecard. This is exactly how we're going to measure success. This is the destination, the mountaintop. Be clear about what that mountaintop looks like. And then on the path of the journey, check in with the person and ask them how they're doing, if there's anything specific that they need support on, and really use that time to essentially, instead of tell them what to do, coach them and provide new perspective. One thing that I've discovered for myself is helping my coaching clients not throw hand grenades in their own business, and by giving them a different perspective, coaching them to that new perspective. So they might have a clear outcome, know how to measure, but if they continue throwing hand grenades in their business because they like chaos, which is a very normal thing, then it's going to stop them from getting those results. So that's, to me, is the way you do it that's totally different than transactional leadership. Again, tell them what to do, check they got done, tell them what to do next. Transformational leadership, especially in times of chaos, allowing me to learn how to communicate the outcome, measure, and coach my team when we were rebuilding the revenue base, allowed us to build the company back up in 11, 12 months and then get it acquired. I mean, it was a life-changing amount of money. We sold a company called Demand Force, which got acquired 4 months later for about $350 million by Intuit. And since then, using that exact same framework to lead my current teams in all the different companies I'm involved in, to help them get clarity, especially in this time that's crazy chaotic and so much uncertainty, has really allowed them to feel confident and have clarity around their destination and empowered to make the right decision. So I wanted to share that with you real quick. If you're struggling with selling right now, because it's a big area of frustration, I put together essentially this framework called the Rocket Demo Builder. It's 9 specific boxes that you just got to fill in, kind of like a script that you use in your next call that will help you close twice as many deals in literally half the time. That is my gift to you. Just go to Dan Martell, 2lsmartell.com/rocket demo to download your copy of my Rocket Demo Builder with the 5 hot principles and the 9-box model and scripts to help you close more deals. So with that, I want to thank you for the opportunity to share that story, those lessons learned, and wishing you all the best. Hope this video finds you healthy and safe. We'll talk soon. Cheers.